I'm saying anything that is false speech. My understanding is that you filed an affidavit in federal court on Tuesday reaffirming allegations about Chief Justice John Röbërts. And could you tell us what you filed or what you didn't file so the listeners out there can have clarity and not just headlines?
Sure. I represent Rosalind La Liberté, and she was a victim of a false and viciously false attack by Joy Reid. Reid's a commentator on Joy in the Morning, I think, is a show on MSNBC. And she falsely accused her of attacking a young boy who was a minority. It was a false story. So I represent, and Rosalind, by the way, having a Make America Great Again cap. Well, that probably got Joy Reid's attention, didn't it? So they falsely accused Rosalind. I represented her. I still do. So now Joy Reid's lawyers, after I successfully handled the case in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, reversing an order of dismissal, an order that is very, very helpful to Rosalind and helpful to other defamation plaintiffs around the country on the issue of public-private figure. Now, all of a sudden, Joy Reid's lawyers filed a motion to have my Pro Hoc visa revoked in New York. One of the grounds they used were comments that I had made on social media about Chief Justice Röbërts and some others. Comments that were protected speech, but comments, particularly with respect to Chief Justice Röbërts, that were based on credible information that I received from a whistleblower. Now, I'm a lawyer. If I receive credible information, and I judge credibility on 43 years of experience, whether the whistleblower is telling me the truth or not is not for me to determine. My determination is this person credible? Is he believable? I found from a variety of tests that I usually perform on any witness that I thought this man was very credible. So I commented on it. I made it clear that it wasn't Lynn Wood saying that somebody did something wrong, but it was Lynn Wood saying that I have credible evidence that this whistleblower has said that Chief Justice Röbërts is involved in some extremely heinous, if true, criminal activities. So when they challenged me in the New York case, I gave an affidavit and I said straight up, I have an affidavit. I have an interview, and I swore under oath that I had it because I do, that contained these accusations from a credible whistleblower. That's all I said. I told the court that I would provide the court with the whistleblower's interview, but didn't feel like it was necessary. I didn't want to drag the court into an unnecessary determination. I wanted to keep the case focused on Rosalind La Liberté's case against Joy Reid. But I have provided that whistleblower's interview to the State Bar of Georgia, to Mercer University, to the Lawyers Club of Atlanta, and then I provided it to the United States Secret Service. I also provided it to the bar in Colorado when I had somebody file a frivolous complaint against me out there. So I'm trying to bring an investigation of this whistleblower's statements to the proper authorities. It needs to be investigated, and if they find, as I found, that the whistleblower is credible and there's evidence to support it, and I believe there will be, then somebody's got to be criminally prosecuted. We cannot have public officials in high places that have committed crimes that continue to rule and govern our country. A lawyer has a duty to bring that to the attention of the public and to the authorities. I did my duty.
I'm going to read.
If you look at what's happened to me, if I might finish this real quick, Clay.
Yeah.
If you look at what has happened to me in the past 4 months, before the last 4 or 5 months, I had a pristine, I guess, nobody's pristine, I'm not perfect, but I had a stellar record as a lawyer. People praised me. People asked me to speak about professionalism. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting smeared from coast to coast by the media and by people who don't support Donald Trump. So what they've done is they've taken a lawyer and they've attacked me because of my politics. The law is nonpartisan. You don't take politics into the courtroom. So they have the right to disagree with me politically, but they don't have the basis to attack me as a lawyer based on partisan politics. I fight for the First Amendment in the Constitution. Who opposes that? I fight for an honest election. Who opposes that? I fight against child pedophilia and child sex trafficking. Who in the world supports those criminal activities? They're heinous. And yes, I have exposed what I thought was credible evidence of wrongdoing in high places in government. Doesn't everybody want to know that? So why am I being attacked? It cannot logically be for the last few things that I mentioned. Rather, it's because I'm being attacked because I support Donald Trump, and maybe they perceive me as an influential person in that area because I speak truth, and maybe that's why they want to take me out. And I'm sure the media in this country wants to take my bar license because they don't want to see me on the other side of the table in a court of law. They know my reputation. They know my successes. They can check my record. They know it. Wouldn't they love to take one of their most formidable adversaries out of the arena? I'm not going to let it happen.
I'm going to read from a tweet, and Lynn, I don't expect you to memorize every tweet you've ever posted. Furthermore, as we've seen recently, people like to doctor tweets and make people look like they said things that they didn't say. So I'm going to read this to you, and if at any point you want to buzz me and say, I didn't type that, that's fine. But let me just read this to you. This is the tweet. You wrote, I believe Chief Justice Röbërts and a multitude of powerful individuals worldwide are being blackmailed in a horrendous scheme involving rape and murder of children captured on videotape. I have the key to the files containing the videos. I have also shared this information. The blackmail targets are approached with a gun, a child, and a camera. The target is ordered to rape the child on video. The target is ordered to shoot the child on video. The target is then owned and controlled by the blackmailers until blackmail evidence loses its value. This blackmail scheme is conducted by members of 10 of the world's most known and elite intelligence agencies. Lynn, there's so much there you said, or you typed, and if you didn't type it, I apologize for reading something that was doctored, but this is what I believe is correct. Did you say that? Did you type that on Twitter? And could you break that down for us? There's just so much there.
Well, number one, Twitter pulled my account, so I don't have access to my tweets.
Okay.
And number two, I can tell you that while I don't have it in front of me to say, yes, that's precisely right, I think you've got it exactly right. And you'll notice that I started off with the statement, I believe. That's a statement of belief. That's a statement of opinion. That's protected speech. But did I just make it up? I mean, it sounds so incredible that most people look over and say, well, Wood, he must be crazy. Nobody does that. What if they do? I know that I got that information, and I was very precise in my wording to make sure I had correctly put in that tweet what had been told to me by the individual that provided me with the key or the password that allegedly was a dead man switch left by Isaac Cappy, who had received access to Jeffrey Epstein videotapes from some member of I call them I've heard a black hat hacking group, a young group of hackers that had hacked into one of the 10 intelligence agencies' computer systems, provided those files to Cappy, and apparently Cappy had given out a password and then to someone else had given out the files. So anybody had the files needed the password.
Got it.
I was asked to take that password and to put it out there, not to put the password out, but to tell people that I had it. During the time period that I told people that I had it on social media, I was aware that if my information was right, and I believed it was credible, that I probably had 10 of the world's leading spy organizations wanting to kill me. So it was a risky procedure, but I took the risk. I also, though, gave that information to other people, created my own dead man switch. I won't name the people I gave it to, but I asked them to put it under lock and key, not to look at it, but if I was found dead or some alleged suicide, I told them to give it to the following people. That was my protection. I still took risks because they could have grabbed a friend or a family member and said, we're going to shoot this person if you don't tell us who you gave it to. They would have had to shoot my family or my friend because I was never going to give it up. Because I knew they'd kill him anyway. They'd kill me, and they'd kill the people that I'd given it to. I eventually put it out publicly what the password/key was. Now I'm safe. It's out in the open. If it turns out that it was solid information, then it could be, over time, information that reveals a lot of very perverted and criminal activity involving children. Did I mean to say that it's done like that in every instance? No. I was quoting directly what I had been told by a source who hired me so that there would be attorney-client privilege and I would not have to identify that person's name. They were scared. So, does it mean that they walk in with a gun, a camera, a little child? No, but that's the procedure as described to me. Maybe they have someone that's voluntarily having sex with a minor, and then they tell them that it's videoed, and they've got control over them by blackmail. Maybe they actually go to the step of having them harm or kill a child. Then they've really got total control of them by blackmail on video. Do I think that that exists in this world from a variety of other information I've received? A little information here, somewhere else that connects up the dots where it makes sense to me that that is done in this world? Yes. I think there's so much that has to be revealed to the public that it's going to be so shocking the public is not going to want to believe it. But I believe what we do know is that there is a pandemic in this world of child sex trafficking. What is happening to these millions of children that are missing? Why does the media not look into it day and night? Why isn't our government spending its resources to find out what's being done to these children?
Well, let's talk about that real quick here.
I do think it relates to pedophilia, and I'll tell you straight up, I believe it relates in large part to satanic rituals of worship where children are sacrificed.
Now, people like Isaac Cappy, who, let's just say what it was. He was an actor who had some early success, and in recent years, hadn't had a big hit or anything, and many speculated that he was trying to get attention for talking about the Hollywood pedophilia ring that he was discussing. But then, can you tell us what happened to Isaac Cappy after he started sharing his concerns about what he believed to be the Hollywood pedophilia ring? What happened to Isaac, and how did he die?
Well, that's the key. He died young age. And I don't have the details of his death, but I think that some people have described it as claiming that he jumped off of a bridge onto oncoming traffic and was run over. I know there are other people that dispute that as being a credible explanation of his death. There are probably some people out there that dispute whether or not he actually died or whether it was staged so that he could escape. I don't know. All I know is that the reports are that Isaac Cappy died under strange circumstances. So, again, it needs to be investigated. There's so many things out there where people have died under alleged suicide or other strange circumstances. Why are they not being investigated? I raised an issue over the summer about the fact that John Roberts' name, the name John Roberts, appeared on 2 of the publicly released flight itineraries on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. And I said, was this Chief Justice John Roberts or not? Why doesn't someone look into it? And they go, well, there's a lot of John Roberts. Wait a minute. Not every John Roberts is going to be flying on Jeffrey Epstein's jet. If it's the Chief Justice John Roberts, the public needs to know it.
Right.
John Roberts ought to be on television saying, I didn't do it. Then we'd know. But we don't know it. He hasn't denied it. So it needs to be investigated. What in the world have I done wrong to try to expose questions that need to be answered and investigations that may need to be pursued? I don't think I've done anything wrong. I think I've lived up to the highest standards of my profession. I believe in the rule of law.
Now I'm going to put on the Justice Roberts apologist fan club hat I'm not sure there's a whole lot of people wearing that hat, but let's just say that I'm a fan of Justice Roberts. I love the fact that he ran, or many people portrayed him to be a conservative, and then he's just consistently ruled against almost every conservative thing that he could have ruled, in favor of or against. But let's just say I am a Justice Roberts fan, if there is such a thing. You tweeted out that, I believe this was directed at Justice Roberts. You tweeted out, "Are you a member of any club or cabal requiring minor children as initiation fee? My information from reliable sources, Roberts arranged an illegal adoption of 2 young children from Wales through Jeffrey Epstein. I have linked Roberts to illegal adoption, Jeffrey Epstein pedophilia, and prior knowledge of Scalia's death." So that's 3 pretty big ideas there, Lynn. You're saying, you've linked Roberts to illegal adoption, Jeffrey Epstein pedophilia, and prior knowledge of Scalia's death. If somebody out there is a Justice Roberts fan, they would say, well, can you prove it? So what would your thoughts be?
Well, number one, it's not my job to prove it.
Okay.
I'm just a lawyer. The system of justice is supposed to investigate it and determine whether it's true or false, guilty or not guilty. So, what I can tell you unequivocally is that what I said in that social media post is supported by the interview, the lengthy interview that I conducted and a colleague of mine conducted with a whistleblower that I found to be credible. So, it's not Lynn Wood saying it. It's Lynn Wood telling you that I have credible evidence and it needs to be investigated. But let's stop and look at it. How many people in this country have heard kind of a rumor swirling around about Roberts and his children? I think a lot of people. Nobody's investigated it. I think that there's a question of him being on the Jeffrey Epstein flight logs. Look, Jeffrey Epstein admitted to crime related to pedophilia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been swirling around about Roberts. Nobody's investigated it. And then a lot of people have talked about the strange circumstances related to the death of Justice Scalia. Nobody's investigated it. Then I get information from a credible whistleblower suggesting that Roberts may have had involvement in those areas. It needs to be investigated. If Justice Roberts is clean as a whistle, then he deserves to be formally acquitted by the public in the court of law. But if he's guilty of one or more of those, he needs to be off the bench. He has no business being on the Supreme Court of the United States of America. We don't put people on our bench that have those kinds of activities. So let's just find out the answer. If I'm wrong, it's only because my whistleblower's testimony proves to be wrong. But if you're investigating it, maybe you'll find more evidence than just the whistleblower. I was told that this whistleblower was the victim of frivolous cases brought against him criminally in Maryland. On my Twitter account, I put the case name and number up. I'm told that there was documents filed under seal, under alleged claims of national security. Somebody needs to open them up. Or if now all of a sudden they're missing, wouldn't that tell you something too? So, I haven't tried to say guilty or not guilty. That's not my place. I fight people that go out and falsely accuse my clients of being guilty. But they're not even liable if they had a reasonable basis to make the accusation. So I had a reasonable basis to make those posts, to say those things that I said. It was protected speech, and it was backed by what I believe to this day to still be credible evidence. I wouldn't be turning over something to the United States Secret Service that I thought was not credible.
Right.
I wouldn't send it to the State Bar of Georgia. I sent it also to a reporter when I asked her if she was interested in it. I sent it to the Wall Street Journal. Has anybody written about it yet? Has anybody gone in and tried to find out what that lawsuit was about?
And I think what I want to
look, it involves